Chapter 340. From the fans' arrival at the airport, everyone could see the difference between Tongning and Ling Zi. Some news could indeed be exaggerated, but when it really appeared, anyone with a discerning eye would be able to tell the difference between popularity and strength at a glance. Before boarding the plane, Long Jie spotted Lan Shi and Ling Zi in the VIP lounge. She approached Tongning and lowered her head. "Do you want to go over and say hello? That newcomer model is following beside Lan Shi. It's obvious Lan Shi values her." "There's no need," Tongning replied straightforwardly. Long Jie had already forgotten about being forced to kneel down, but Tongning was going to remember it for the rest of her life. Actually, Long Jie didn't forget, she simply didn't want to burden Tongning, so she pretended to be relaxed. Long Jie nodded her head and whispered into Tongning's ear, "Boss is becoming more and more black-bellied. Is this the first day you've met him?" In reality, Ling Zi wanted to use Tongning to increase her own popularity, and Tongning, of course, wanted to use her to prove her own status. Coincidentally, filming had been quiet for a few days. Was there no room for Tongning in the modeling industry? If she was at another agency, perhaps that would be the case. But didn't they know who was backing Tongning up? Lan Shi naturally noticed Tongning and Long Jie. Most importantly, by Tongning's side was the king that she didn't dare to look at. "I simply stole a few top brands from Tongning's hands. Why can't Hai Rui admit it?" Ling Zi said angrily. "Don't say that. If Tongning appeared at Fashion Week, I would have nothing to do with it. The truth is, Tongning gave up on Fashion Week. With your current status, you still can't be compared to Tongning. Endure it," Lan Shi comforted. "She got to where she is today by enduring it. But let's not talk about it. Feng Ji's wedding will be attended by people from all over the world. Make good use of this opportunity and you will soon catch up to Tongning." Even though Lan Shi couldn't understand why Tongning would give up on Fashion Week. Gave up on Fashion Week, she never believed the rumors that were circulating. Tongning's mind was clear. Others might not know, but she knew. Mo Ting was probably holding back his trump card. So, it was best she didn't provoke him in case she got slapped in the face again. After all, Luo Hao's incident had only just passed. Hu Jingjing and Fang Yu had arrived earlier than Tongning. As soon as they arrived at the hotel, Hu Jingjing couldn't help but hug Tongning and pull her into the bedroom to whisper sweet nothings. "Ling Zi is also attending Fashion Week. What are you going to do tonight? The media will definitely come after you. What can we do? It's a fact that I didn't go." Tang Ning smiled, her face as calm as ever. "However, I just saw the entertainment news. UN President Mo's appearance caused quite a commotion. I think I'm starting to understand what President Mo is trying to do. Besides, even if the movie flops, you still have me." Hearing this, Tongning took it to heart. She opened her eyes wide and glared at her. "You're the one who's going to lose. But you used to be a model. Look at me. If you asked me to act, I would only be able to act as a corpse. In fact, I would have to lie on the ground and die," Hu Jingjing questioned, "if you were in my shoes." Hu Jingjing couldn't be blamed for not believing that Tongning had acting skills. If others hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, not many would have believed that Tongning had such talent. Tongning did not argue. She simply smiled. After all, in the end, time would prove who was right. As there was still some time before the wedding, the men were in the study room discussing business, while the women sat in the living room watching a movie to kill time. Suddenly, Long Jie suddenly jumped up from the sofa, pulled out her phone and showed it to Hu Jingjing like she was showing off a treasure. "Do you want to watch Tongning's audition? It's going to be spectacular." "Audition?" Hu Jingjing put down the glass of wine in her hand and received the video from Long Jie. Didn't Tongning join the cast out of nowhere? Not a single person on set liked her, especially the best actor, Lin Sheng. So, Tongning arrogantly told the director that she wanted to audition and let the cast and crew be the judges. If anyone felt her acting wasn't good enough, they could ask her to leave. Hu Jingjing was surprised, but she wasn't too surprised. After all, this seemed like something Tongning would do to slap people in the face. But acting? Hu Jingjing curiously opened the video on Long Jie's phone. A moment later, she saw the scene where Tongning found out she was pregnant during her audition. Tongning did not join the shocked couple. She simply looked at the rain outside and felt it wasn't the right weather for a wedding. Hu Jingjing didn't know how she finished watching the short few minutes. After putting down her phone, she simply had one thought: if I was President Mo, I would also let you act. Who would care about the runway? I always thought you were talented at the runway, but after watching you act, I realized the runway can be treated as a side job. No objections? Tongning asked as she glanced at the excited Hu Jingjing. After walking the runway for so many years, I'm sure you're well aware that in this industry, it's all about youth. Nowadays, there are more and more outstanding models and the competition is getting more and more intense. By the time we reach 30, no one in the industry will still remember us. Hu Jingjing sighed as she supported her head with one hand and drank a glass of wine. But actors are different. Actors have their own works. Actors have left a legacy for the world. Plus, from the looks of it, President Mo wants to turn you into a best actress. When that time comes, the difference in status between us will be huge. So, let the public say what they want. What's wrong with giving up on Fashion Week? It's all about acting. When your film is released, you will definitely shock everyone. Just like how I was shocked by you. These were Hu Jingjing's heartfelt words. She was truly shocked by Tongning. Originally, she thought Tongning was on the same level as her. Who would have thought, when people compared themselves, there was indeed a difference? That's not something I can control. Tongning did not continue the topic. Instead, she changed the topic to Yu Feng's wedding. It seems, a lot of people have been getting married recently. Are you jealous? Hu Jingjing laughed. You and President Mo have been married for a long time. Is there a need to be jealous of others? Ting and I have decided to announce our marriage after we finish filming, Tongning suddenly said to the two women in seriousness. Speaking of which, how did the two of you get married in the first place? I've never heard you mention it. Hu Jingjing was curious. In reality, when Tongning thought about the day of her wedding, she still felt it was a little surreal. So she slowly curved her lips upwards. On the day of our wedding, we only met for the second time. The first time we met was at a party. That day, I directly stopped him and asked if we could fake our marriage. Afterwards, he agreed. Half an hour later, we registered our marriage. Chapter 341. 2:30 p.m. Yu Feng held his wedding ceremony at Como Hotel. Inside the luxurious Gothic cathedral, all the VIPs watched from below the stage. During this time, Ling Zi sat on Tongning's left. Every now and then, she would look at her with hatred and hostility. However, Tongning had a smile on her face the entire time. From start to finish, she was under Mo Ting's protection. After the wedding ceremony, it was time for the couple to express their gratitude. An event like this was naturally a time for managers to bring their own artists to look for collaborations and resources. Actresses like Tongning and Hu Jingjing naturally didn't need to care about other people. But because Tongning didn't appear at Fashion Week, she became the hot topic of discussion among the models. And because she might have appeared in Stupid, she became the hot topic of discussion among the actors. Of course, there was also talk about how to hook up with the big boss of the entertainment industry. It seemed, no matter where she went, she was the hot topic of discussion. Inside the European-style ballroom with a fountain, Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning's waist as they weaved through the guests. However, a moment later, Mo Ting pulled out his phone and said, "I need to take an important call." Tongning nodded her head. Dressed in a white strapless dress, she held onto her handbag as she waited at the entrance. At this time, a man and a woman in their 50s entered the ballroom, supporting a 70-something-year-old man. As soon as she saw the middle-aged woman, Tongning was stunned. This woman was none other than Han Yufan's mother, who was married to a famous director. She never expected to see her at an event like this. Tongning gently nodded her head at the woman, but the woman did not seem to appreciate her gesture. Mother Han looked at Tongning coldly and said to her husband, "I just saw a disgusting person." "What happened?" "That's the model that harmed my son and ended up climbing up the social ladder." Mother Han pointed to Tongning with her chin as she explained to the old man and her husband, "Enemies really do cross path. Do you want me to help you get back at her? Not at the moment. Let's give Yu Feng some face, Mother Han scoffed as she stopped her husband from doing anything. Actually, it was understandable that Mother Han hated Tongning. After all, Han Yufan's current situation was all thanks to Tongning. Tongning also felt uncomfortable. She hated events like this because she kept bumping into people she didn't want to see. Seeing Mo Ting wasn't around, Lan Shi, dressed in a black suit, approached Tongning. She grabbed 2 glasses of champagne from a waiter's tray and handed one to Tongning. Have a drink? I thought there was no need to be so polite between us. Tongning received the bottle of champagne and placed it back on the waiter's tray. Lan Shi laughed at herself and shrugged her shoulders. I only have one question for you. When did you and Mo Ting start dating? Tongning covered the light in her eyes with her thick eyelashes and replied calmly, It seems that you really want to make yourself a joke. In other people's eyes, aren't you also a joke? Lan Shi's lips curved into a cold smile. Don't you know? No matter how many blessings you get from your fans, the people in the industry still don't think highly of you. Tongning continued to listen but did not respond. Now that you have Mo Ting to protect you, no one would dare to touch you. But you need to cherish what you have now. Who knows, when you wake up, you might be back to where you started. After speaking, Lan Shi downed the glass of champagne in one gulp. She then took one last glance at Tongning before turning to leave. Don't think highly of me. Hearing these 3 words, Tongning felt a chill run down her spine. However, a moment later, Tongning returned to a calm smile. Whether they thought highly of me or not, I was already Mo Ting's wife. Tongning lowered her head to calm herself down. She then noticed Lu Che approaching her. The president needs to make a few phone calls, so he asked me to introduce the madam to a few important partners in Hai Rui. Must I? Tongning didn't like the atmosphere in the room. She knew there were a lot of people here that were judging her and pointing at her. Relax. Lu Che shrugged his shoulders and handed a glass of champagne to Tongning. Let's go. From directors, producers, business partners, and other successful people, Tongning met quite a few people this time. In the end, Lu Che brought her over to Mother Han and introduced her with a smile. This is Mr. Zhong Qingping, the honorary president of the Film Association. He is also a top actor and director and a regular judge for the Fei Tian Awards. It turned out, Lu Che wanted to introduce the old man to Tongning. Mother Han and her husband sat on either side of the old man. As soon as they saw Tongning, their expressions did not look too good. Tongning ignored the two as she held onto her glass and said politely to Mr. Zhong, Nice to meet you, Mr. Zhong. I've heard a lot about you. Allow me to propose a toast to you. The old man glanced at Tongning but did not respond. After quite some time, he finally said, A mere model doesn't have the right to drink with me. The old man's words were firm and forceful, causing the entire hall to fall silent. Everyone turned to look at the old man. After observing the situation, they suddenly felt pity for Tongning. Actually, it was understandable. Zhong Qingping was an artist from the older generation and Mother Han was his goddaughter. Knowing that his godgrandson had been ruined by Tongning, it was only natural for him to find a way to vent his anger. Tongning's glass remained suspended in mid-air. At this moment, the atmosphere was extremely awkward. Tongning had been in the limelight for so long because of Mo Ting. Perhaps, it had been a long time since anyone dared to look down on her. Who would have thought, at such a grand event, she would embarrass herself in such a way? Let's see if she can continue to be arrogant. Most importantly, what about Mo Ting's attitude? Tongning held onto her glass without getting angry. Just as she was about to pull it back, someone grabbed the glass in her hand and asked, Am I qualified? The old man lifted his head and discovered the person standing beside Tongning was Mo Ting. She represents me. If she doesn't have the right, then, no one else here has the right to drink with Mr. Zhong. The old man's expression changed as he looked at Mo Ting unhappily. Mo Ting, I am considered your elder. Mr. Zhong is, at most, an elder that bullies the younger generation, Mo Ting replied straightforwardly. Is there a need for you to speak to me like this because of a model? A model like this isn't anything special. But, she happens to work for me. She represents my identity. If anyone tries to look down on her, they are looking down on me. Even if it's you, Mr. Zhong, I will not go easy on them. After speaking, Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning's waist and turned around. However, as he walked away, he said, "Since you are a filmmaker, you should focus on film-related matters." What he meant was, "Don't you get involved in my business. As for my people, don't you dare mess with them." Chapter 342. What happened? Mo Ting asked as they walked to a less crowded area. Tongning gripped onto the corner of Mo Ting's shirt as she replied with a complicated expression. It seems, he wanted to help Han Yufan get back at him. Director Zheng's wife is Han Yufan's mother. It's obvious they have a good relationship with Elder Zhong. Above all, with her status, it was normal for her to receive this kind of treatment at an event like this. In the end, it was because her foundation wasn't stable and she couldn't produce any respectable work. Mo Ting carefully looked into Tongning's eyes. He then grabbed onto her right hand and said, "Hold on tight." Tongning lowered her head and looked at their intertwined hands. Her heart finally relaxed. Returning to the ballroom, the way everyone looked at Tongning changed once again. In reality, Mo Ting had already been extremely protective of Tongning, both in the open and in the shadows. However, this was the first time he had done it at such a grand event. Previously, he was announcing her identity. Now, he was announcing her status. Tongning watched as Mo Ting spoke confidently with the others, watched as he avoided the easy questions and countered the sharp questions of others. At this moment, her grip on Mo Ting's hand tightened. In this cold and emotionless industry, in this self-interested industry, there was someone like this who would always hold onto her hand in the dark, shielding her from the wind and giving her direction. She felt, even if Mo Ting wanted her life, she would not hesitate to do so. Feeling his fingers had turned white from Tongning's grip, Mo Ting looked down at their hands and whispered in her ear, "How hard are you holding on to me?" At this moment, the two were standing right next to the fountain in the ballroom. Tongning leaned against Mo Ting's shoulder and said in a raspy voice, "I was afraid you would let go." After all, everyone was talking about her and had all sorts of opinions about her. Meanwhile, the man beside her was the only person she could rely on. Mo Ting turned around and faced Tongning. In front of everyone, he grabbed onto her hands. "I suddenly feel like kissing you." Not only did Mo Ting say it, he immediately acted on it. Everyone took a deep breath. They never imagined the two would be so intimate at someone else's wedding. Oh God, look, they're kissing. They can't even control themselves. This must be true love, right? Although I don't want to admit it, our great President Mo has indeed been won over by this model. His mood is a little messed up. In a moment, drink a few more glasses to ease his mood. However, Mo Ting wanted to make those that were jealous of Tongning even more jealous. He wanted to slap those that thought they were putting on a show. Then, the newlyweds held a glass of wine and walked up to them with a blissful smile. Yu Feng hugged the bride and said to the couple, "CEO Mo, this is our wedding, leave us some glory." "Feng Ge, I'm so sorry." Tongning grabbed a glass of champagne and offered a toast to the groom apologetically. However, Yu Feng simply smiled. "I've been in Hai Rui for so many years, but I've never seen President Mo protect someone like this. The outside world is full of ups and downs, you need to get used to it. Otherwise, there will be more occasions like this in the future. I'm sure you don't want him to die from exhaustion, right?" "I understand," Tongning nodded. "Make yourself strong. You've always done this very well." After speaking, the four men clinked glasses together. It was as if Mo Ting wasn't the CEO of Hai Rui, but simply a member of his family. "Happy wedding." "Thank you, President Mo." Not too far away, Lan Shi watched as Mo Ting and Tongning intertwined their fingers. She couldn't help but finish the glass of champagne in one gulp. Just like Tongning had said, she was indeed a joke. Especially when Tongning was still at Chengtian, she actually tried to hit on Mo Ting. At that time, even though she knew Tongning already had a boyfriend, she was certain she couldn't find anyone good. In reality, the words she said to Tongning earlier were simply because she wasn't willing to accept it. Outside the ballroom, the rain continued to pour. After the banquet ended, everyone was originally supposed to return to their respective hotels. But even in such bad weather, the reporters held up their umbrellas and waited outside. Seeing the reporters' faces were red from the cold, many artists stopped to accept interviews. This included the surrounded Lan Shi and Ling Zi. After all, she also needed to be exposed. Of course, Mo Ting and Tang Ning were also the focus of the reporters. President Lan, Cheng Tian's former model, Tang Ning, was also present at the wedding. "I wonder how it feels to see you again." "I wish you all the best," Lan Shi replied in an official manner. "In that case, do you think Ling Zi can reach Tang Ning's level? She is who she is. In my heart, Zi has her own charm." On the other side, Tang Ning was also being asked the same question. "Miss Tang, are you embarrassed to see your old boss again? Miss Tang, I heard you did not make an appearance at Fashion Week. Rumor has it that you are filming on set. Is this true? Have you really decided to change careers and become an actress?" Tang Ning knew there would be this question. So, she immediately looked at the man beside her. He had told her to leave everything to him. Mo Ting hugged Tang Ning tightly before replying, "I think her singing is better." Of course, the answer was a complete lie. They asked about acting and runway, yet he actually replied that she was singing. Tang Ning subconsciously wanted to laugh. President Mo, Beijing is constantly comparing newcomers to Miss Tang. Do you mind if she is constantly being compared to others? For example, the recently famous Ling Zi. Who is that? Mo Ting asked straightforwardly. Every day, there were plenty of people that became famous. Who was this person? The reporters understood what Mo Ting was trying to say. They were all floating clouds in the sky. In that case, let me ask you a more personal question. When are you getting married? When they were flirting, he asked when they were going to announce their marriage. Now that they were going to announce their marriage. Regarding this question, Mo Ting only revealed an unfathomable smile. The reporters knew this was Mo Ting's limit, so they didn't ask any further. They simply stepped aside and allowed the couple to leave. Amidst the rainy night, the scene of the couple holding an umbrella as they left was captured by the reporters' cameras. This wedding was obviously a rehearsal for their own wedding. Meanwhile, after hearing Mo Ting's answer, Ling Zi finally realized that Tang Ning and Mo Ting had never treated her with any importance. Even if she ended up taking over Tang Ning's resources for Fashion Week, she had simply taken advantage of something that Tang Ning didn't want. "Lan Jie, from now on, tell the media not to compare me to Tang Ning. I don't want to embarrass myself." Previously, Ling Zi was proud of the fact that she received Tang Ning's resources. But now she suddenly felt like she was nothing. Lan Shi watched as the couple left and nodded her head. "That's not someone we can match up to. Tang Ning has never been an ordinary person. Perhaps, she has something that will surprise me even more. I'll wait and see." Chapter 343. After Yu Feng's wedding, Tang Ning and Mo Ting appeared on the headlines of many entertainment newspapers. That level of popularity was something that many artists could only look up to. But, from that moment onwards, Tang Ning once again disappeared from the limelight and returned to filming. However, the results of the Asian Model Public Trust Rankings were released. Tang Ning was ranked first in Asia with an income that was double that of the second place. Her huge photo was published on the international news. But, to everyone's surprise, this powerful Asian model did not make an appearance at this year's Autumn-Winter Fashion Week. If Tang Ning is really going to film, then giving up everything she has is too courageous. Actually, an artist's value shouldn't be limited by the form they exist in. I think Tang Ning is well aware of her position and wants to challenge herself. Although I like her as a person, if she is actually going to film, I still wouldn't watch it. Exactly, a good character doesn't equal good acting. Tang Ning was undoubtedly a miracle. After 9 years in the industry, it only took her 4 months to return to the top of the industry. Just as she was about to become a global supermodel, she actually made such a huge decision and was willing to make such a sacrifice. The path she took made the onlookers feel it was quite interesting. On set, Tang Ning had already completed half of her scenes. That day, after the intense night scenes, Mo Ting's car arrived on set. Tang Ning looked at the time. Without removing her makeup, she opened the car door. "It's already early in the morning. Why are you here?" "To pick you up to celebrate," Mo Ting said as he held onto the steering wheel and gestured for her to quickly get changed. "Celebrate?" Tongning was confused. It wasn't her birthday, nor was it Mo Ting's. What was there to celebrate? Mo Ting smiled without saying a word. Only after Tongning had changed did he leave the set with her. It's already so late. The restaurants outside are already closed. Mo Ting did not say a word as he drove her home. Before entering the house, Tongning was a little nervous. She was afraid this man would make a big fuss. However, after opening the door, all Tongning saw was a candlelit dinner in the living room. She relaxed and smiled as she complained, "You scared me. I have a present for you." Mo Ting held her hand as they sat down at the dining table. He then placed a white box in her hands. Tongning tore open the fireworks on top of the box and opened the meticulously prepared box. Inside was a copy of Stupid. So fast. Tongning excitedly took out the book and quickly removed the packaging and the cover. "A wedding present," Mo Ting said in seriousness. "The first book in the world is in your hands. When will it be released? Look below." Mo Ting guided her. Tongning froze for a moment as she suppressed her excitement and looked at the box again. She then noticed a key embedded in the middle of the box. "What is this? Haven't you noticed?" Mo Ting subconsciously looked around. Following his gaze, Tongning finally noticed the changes in the house. It seemed, everything came in pairs and they were all custom-made. Including the furniture and utensils, they all had their names written on them. Tongning stood up from her seat and walked towards the bedroom. She then opened the bedroom door with the key in her hand. The originally Spanish palace style was now filled with the aura of newlyweds. It was now a combination of white and red. Everything in the bedroom also came in pairs and carried the unique logo of the couple. "Since we are going to announce our marriage, we need to make it look like a newlyweds," Mo Ting said as he stood behind Tongning and wrapped his arms around her. "From now on August 19th every year, we will decorate this room like a newlyweds. Every August 19th, we will treat it like we are newlyweds." Tongning held back her tears as she asked in a choked-up voice, "How long have you been decorating all this?" "Since you agreed to announce our marriage." Mo Ting released her from his embrace and walked over to her side to wipe away the tears on her face. "How could Stupid be considered a present? I simply wanted to share my joy with you. This is what I call a pleasant surprise. Although this is a flash marriage, I hope you can experience the love that other brides enjoy." Tongning hung onto Mo Ting's neck as she began to cry. "Don't be so nice to me." Mo Ting carried her and placed her on the red bed. He then leaned against her and said, "You were even willing to give up your career for me. How could I let you lose? If you continue to be so nice to me, I will have no choice but to give you my life," Tongning mumbled. Mo Ting leaned against Tongning's body and asked in a raspy voice, "Are you still in your safe period?" "Yes," Tongning replied as she bit her lip. The next morning, Mo Ting had just finished a video conference and returned to his office. Lu Che immediately approached him with some documents and handed them to Mo Ting. "This is an online drama produced by Qingsha Film and Television and Wind Film. It's called Star Path. I received a synopsis from a special channel. The content is 70% similar to Stupid. That's not all. To cater to the audience, not only did they choose to film while broadcasting, they even added in the male lead's emotions and changed it to a very ambiguous gay film. It seems they are trying to earn some quick cash. Are they trying to play around the edges?" Mo Ting scoffed as he received the documents. "That's about it." Lu Che nodded his head. Nowadays, the government had opened up their standards for film and television. So, if they were to film like this, there would be no problems. The biggest problem was actually Hai Rui. "When will the online drama be released?" "I estimate it to be early next month," Lu Che replied. Mo Ting threw away the documents. He had no intention of wasting too much energy on something like this. "From tomorrow onwards, I don't want to see the word Star Path ever again." When faced with a profit-driven world, sometimes, one couldn't be too merciful. "Understood, President," Lu Che replied respectfully. This was the birth of a movie. Sometimes, it wasn't as smooth as you thought it would be. Tongning soon heard from Coke that Hai Rui's script had been used as a reference. But, Hai Rui used a lot of pressure, so the word Star Path quickly disappeared without a trace. But, even if they managed to prevent it this time, what about the next time? This was all because of you, Shanshan. Hey, Tongning, has a new novel been released for Stupid? A staff member from the production team asked curiously after seeing her holding a book. Tongning nodded her head. Do you want to read it? No need. Just tell me where I can buy it. Little you, can you help me find an internet celebrity that's good at writing jokes? Tongning suddenly asked. Although she had already received a copy of the book, it would still take at least half a month for Stupid to hit the market. In order to avoid any accidents, Tongning had an idea. Movie fans opened the door to novels, and novels brought endless expectations and possibilities to movies. In reality, not only were the public asking who the author of Stupid was, even Lin Sheng couldn't help but ask in private, from the start, you said you were here because of the screenwriter. Does that mean you know the author? Yes, but I need to keep it a secret. Tongning smiled as she held up the only book in her hand. Let me have a look at it later. Lin Sheng stood up and stretched out his hand, but Tongning refused. No. Sheng Ji, you can read it on the official website. This book is not for lending. Since you're not going to lend it to us, don't wave it around in front of us. Lin Sheng glared at her. Show off. Tongning laughed. But, deep down, she was happy that she had solved a difficult problem. However, the fame of Stupid didn't come with all its benefits. It also had its drawbacks. For example, the public's curiosity towards the female lead had accumulated to a certain level. So, they began to do crazy things such as secretly taking photos of her. Although the cast and crew were kept a secret, it didn't take long for powerful fans to find out where Stupid was located. In fact, they even tried to climb over the walls. Because of this, Mo Ting instructed Coke to adjust the filming sequence and focus on Tongning's scenes first. There wasn't much left and most of the scenes were indoor scenes. But, even if they didn't go to the set, fans would still go to the hotel where the cast and crew were staying to check on Tongning's room. This time, the hotel owner's daughter also wanted to know about the gossip. So, she secretly checked on Tongning's room and illegally entered. Breaking news. Female lead of Stupid revealed. It was actually her. Insider reveals details of Tongning's hotel, confirms rumor of Tongning filming. Model turns to film, her acting sucks. Seeing the news spread like wildfire overnight, Mo Ting immediately arranged for the crew to be on high alert. Fuck. I never thought Tongning would be so brave. I never thought she would actually star in Stupid. Can't she just focus on the runway? She must think she's invincible because of her relationship with Mo Ting. Seeing the public's malicious speculations, Long Jie angrily turned off her phone. She then looked at Tongning, who was still sitting quietly in her chair, waiting for her scene to start. It's fine. Who doesn't act like this on their first time? You're the one that's not fine, Tongning laughed. I've already prepared myself for this. So, no matter what the public thinks of me, it doesn't matter. As long as I know what I'm doing, that's fine. With your acting skills when your film is released, you can easily shut those haters up. Since you already know, then why are you still angry? Tongning confiscated Long Jie's phone. Stop scrolling through the news, it's affecting my mood. Tongning. All I need to do now is endure and wait for the right moment. The more people don't believe in me, the more I need to prove myself. After speaking, Tongning heard the director call for her to start preparing for the next scene. Actually, it didn't matter how much people scolded her because she was already used to it. But she didn't know why, but whenever she saw people scolding Stupid or the writer or author, she couldn't stand it anymore. So, in her latest scene, she frequently made ings. Tongning, what's wrong with you today? You're not in character. Coke stood up from his seat and asked, are you feeling unwell? No, director, let's continue. However, after a few scenes, Tongning still couldn't get into character. At this time, the reporter hiding in the props box scoffed, with this level of ings, even I would be better than her. I don't understand why Hai Rui has so many actors. Why did they choose her? Who asked her to have a boyfriend and you don't? Plus, no matter how many ings she makes, as long as we have news to write about, it's already perfect. Not long after, Mo Ting arrived on set. Seeing Tongning making ings, he was quite surprised, so he walked over and pulled her away. What's going on? Chapter 345. If they want to scold me, they can scold me. I just don't understand why they dragged you into this. Tongning's voice sounded slightly wronged. As soon as Mo Ting heard this, he couldn't help but laugh, because you and I have always been one. Is it because of this NG? This isn't like you, this isn't like the flirtatious Tongning on the runway or the domineering Tongning at the audition. I don't like it when people slander you. I can't stand it at all. Mo Ting ran his hand through Tongning's hair and placed a kiss on her forehead. In that case, how are you going to settle the score for being scolded so many times? Huh. Tongning took a deep breath. Perhaps, because her feelings for Mo Ting had deepened, some things had fundamentally changed. For example, after marrying Mo Ting, every time she got emotional, it was because of him. When she was sick, he didn't take his medicine. When he had a headache, he didn't get it checked. It turned out, loving someone could go to this extent. Let me adjust a little. Tongning closed her eyes and took a deep breath. After she calmed down, she finally left Mo Ting's embrace and returned to the set. Scene 163, first scene, action. The script supervisor announced. In this scene, Tongning was 7 months pregnant, yet she was still smoking and drinking like a drug addict. This was the reason why her child was born with dementia. The child was already showing signs of being born prematurely, but she endured the pain as she smoked and made a phone call to her assistant. A moment later, there was a knock on the door. Tongning stood up from the sofa, but she fainted for a few seconds before falling back onto the sofa. Most people didn't pay attention to details like this when playing a pregnant woman. In fact, many celebrities were able to walk like they were flying even when they were pregnant. But Tongning's acting made everyone feel strangely realistic. They felt this was how a pregnant woman should act. She was a real pregnant woman. Because of her popularity, she had to hide it from the rich businessman. In fact, there were many times when she was almost exposed, but she still managed to escape by a hair's breadth. The man you slept with is a member of the national swimming team. After hearing her assistant's response, the actress paused for a moment as she bit on the cigarette in her mouth and put it out. Luckily, my child won't starve to death. You obviously poisoned your child first. The assistant waved away the smoke. At this time, the actress made a shocking decision. I want to give birth at home. The assistant was shocked. Okay. Pass. Needless to say, the actress that Tongning played could easily be portrayed as a crazy person. But, in many small details, Tongning made her actions seem logical and reasonable. It was impossible to hate her. But, why did they have to change it to Tongning? I don't understand. Change Tongning. Change the female lead. If Hai Rui insists on doing things their way, then we, Lin Sheng's fans, will band together to boycott the release of Stupid. Seeing the storm that was brewing, the production crew looked at Tongning comfortingly. Don't worry, Tongning, you aren't like what they say. Your filming is almost complete, don't let it affect you. That's right. Your acting and professionalism are obvious to all. We all support you, the production crew comforted Tongning. The production crew comforted Tongning. Even Lin Sheng took a break from filming and asked, do you want me to clarify everything? No need. Once the film is released, the answer will naturally be revealed. Plus, President Mo won't sit idly by, Lin Sheng continued. But, there are some things that need to be clarified as soon as possible. Otherwise, we may miss out on a chance to turn things around. I understand. Tongning nodded her head. If there's anything you need me to do, just let me know. Since the public has already exposed you, President Mo may ask you to face the public at the next event. Of course, I hope you can turn something rotten into something magical. Walking on the runway and acting are easy for you, let alone facing a few skeptics. Unknowingly, Mo Ting had already arrived behind Tongning. So, of course, he overheard their conversation. That's right, the next time the main cast goes for an interview, you will need to attend. Even though she was exposed, Tongning did not show any signs of panic. At the same time, the woman did not seem to have any intention of revealing her identity. As their eyes met, Tongning suddenly felt this woman was quite interesting. Afterwards, Jong Edan entered the rehearsal room. Facing the judges, she did not show any signs of stage fright. Flip to page 94 of Gunshot and act out that scene, the head examiner instructed. Jong Edan nodded her head and flipped open the page. It was a scene where her friend sacrificed himself for her and she needed to improvise on the spot. Apart from testing the most basic acting skills, the script also tested the actor's freedom to act. Jong Edan quickly gathered her emotions and suddenly exploded. She knelt in front of her friend and held onto his chest. "Don't die, you won't die." Panic, fear, anger, unwillingness. Jong Edan's tears and snot flowed down her face as she quickly got into character. "Please, nothing can happen to him." Afterwards, she stood up, smashed the props around her and knelt on the floor in pain. Although she didn't have any experience in acting, the entire scene. Her emotional scenes were rich and her eyes were layered. Most importantly, her acting was smooth. Not bad, not bad. You're Jong Edan, right? You acted well. Chapter 348. This Jong Edan is not bad according to her profile. She graduated from the best performing academy. She's not bad indeed. She's not bad. But, I think it's because you've seen too much rubbish in the past. That's why as soon as a good one appears, you're surprised. That's true. Let's continue. After a short discussion, the judges instructed their assistants to arrange for another audition. But the following actresses either showed off their jokes, had no acting skills at all, or were simply trying to impress the crowd. The judges rolled their eyes as they watched. They suddenly realized, it seemed, the next actresses wouldn't be better than Jong Edan. In fact, they would only get worse. Number 33, Tang Ejan. Tang Ejan? I've never heard of this person. What about you guys? Neither have I. Let's watch her act first. The judges lowered their heads. They had already given up on the previous actresses, let alone someone with an unknown background. But just as the judges' attention was no longer on the stage, someone called out in surprise. The eyes of the judges were immediately drawn to her. A moment later, everyone was stunned. At this moment, Tongning was wearing a ripped white t-shirt and a pair of skinny jeans. Her hair was short and neat. Most importantly, there was a mole between her eyebrows. She was dressed exactly like the female lead in the script. No. The female shooter had come back to life. The judges were extremely excited. With one glance, they were immediately attracted to this actress. On the dark stage, because of her hair, it was impossible to see her facial features. But this did not stop her from being calm and capable. Turn to page 23 of Gunshot. You can act in that scene. Tongning's assistant handed over the script for Gunshot. However, Tongning did not accept it. She simply said in a low voice, "I don't need the script." What an arrogant tone. But, I like it. One of the judges clapped his hands in approval. Okay, since you don't need it, let's begin. Out of all the auditions this morning, this was the first time all the judges had their full attention on the stage. Even for Jong Edan, there were always people who found flaws and inadequacies. Yet, Tongning was able to capture the hearts of the judges with her appearance alone. Plus, she exuded a trustworthy aura. The judges were completely focused on Tongning. Afterwards. 1, 2, 3. Tongning counted to herself as she raised her gun and broke through the door. It was at this time that the judges realized the way she held the gun was so accurate, it was so heroic. Most importantly, a few of the judges noticed that Tongning's left pinky finger was slightly straight. The female gunner in the script had once been sick and her left finger joints were hardened. Who would have thought Tongning would notice such a small detail? Chapter 350. I trust you've already made a decision for me, Tongning said in seriousness as she looked into Mo Ting's eyes. In fact, I'm sure it's the most suitable for me. I'll help you get a role, you'll definitely like it, but it's just a supporting role. Tongning smiled, but her arms around Mo Ting subconsciously tightened. Because, in this world, only Mo Ting understood her. He understood that she liked to be down to earth, and he understood that she was afraid of being overpraised by people with ulterior motives, so he started from a supporting role. He understood her eagerness to hone her acting skills. I don't care if I'm worthy or not. As long as I'm the main character in your life, I don't care. After all, you'll always be by my side, right? Mo Ting carried her in his arms and brought her home. His handsome face suddenly softened. Mrs. Mo, we are about to announce our marriage. Isn't it a little too late for you to ask this question? Tongning smiled. After boarding the car, Tongning leaned into Mo Ting's embrace. After returning home, Mo Ting placed the script in front of Tongning. As soon as she saw it, she fell in love with the character. This script was called Hidden Expert. It told the story of an illustrious prince in the Yu Kingdom who almost died at the hands of his twin brother because of a struggle in the palace. After being rescued from serious injuries, he lived in seclusion in the mountains. Many years later, the prince returned to the palace from the marketplace and regained his power. As for Tongning, she was playing the role of a female hooligan disguised as a man. She was lazy and gluttonous. She followed the king for many years and in the end, died trying to repay the king's kindness. A woman dressed as a man, and a hooligan at that. Most importantly, the actor playing the role of a prince. Tongning looked at Mo Ting in surprise. Acting with him will put a lot of pressure on me. But this is a rare opportunity. Mo Ting had made up his mind to let Tongning improve her acting skills. So, even if it was a strange actress, he could still harden his heart. Tongning looked at her character and felt her heart itch. I'll accept. Over the past few days, the words Tongning's acting had been a hot topic. This was all because of her audition video. Of course, it was a good thing that acting skills were proven, but it would also cause a lot of problems, such as exaggeration. Fans' flattery was one of them, and at times like this, it was easy to be used to kill. Tongning was well aware of this trick. She had used it against Mo Euro before. Now, there were people comparing her to a big shot behind her back and making enemies for her everywhere. This was all because a tall tree attracts the wind. Afterwards, Gunshot officially announced that they would be using Jong Edan as the female lead. Interestingly enough, everyone knew that Tongning had rejected the role of female lead. Chapter 351. Late at night, inside the luxurious palace-like Tang family home. After Tang Xian entered the living room, the old housekeeper approached her with a box in his hands. Big miss, this is a gift from Harry Winston for the chairman. But, the chairman is currently at the Shishan villa, so. Tang Xian flicked her seaweed-like hair and glanced behind her. Give it to me. Okay. The old housekeeper handed over the box and turned to leave. However, Tang Xian stopped him. Uncle Wu, don't let grandfather know about this. He's getting old, he shouldn't be bothered by things like this. Uncle Wu understands, the old housekeeper replied respectfully as he left. Tang Xian carried the white box in her arms and looked at the MN logo on it. She then removed the white bow-tied lid. Looking at the photo of Tongning and Mo Ting, Tang Xian's eyes grew big as a dark expression appeared on her face. This was simply a gift, so Mo Ting only included a photo of himself and Tongning. The rest were all precious gifts that didn't have the purpose of an invitation, they were simply meant to inform her of their arrival. So, what Tang Xian understood was that the couple were ready to get married. Was the Mo family really willing to accept a model into their family? Tang Xian threw away the box, wanting to confirm this information. But, as a socialite, she didn't want to get involved with the entertainment industry. Perhaps she could ask Kai Xinyan? Tang Xian asked the housekeeper to find the Kai family's phone number and immediately made a call. On the other end of the phone, Kai Xinyan was a little confused. The last time she visited the Tang family home, she could clearly sense that Tang Xian did not like her. Miss Kai, perhaps you know someone in the entertainment industry that can confirm the marriage between Tongning and the CEO of Hai Rui? Marriage? Kai Xinyan was stunned. How is that possible? A few months ago, Mo Ting wanted to marry me. How could he possibly marry a model? Want to marry you? What does that mean? Kai Xinyan was stumped. Of course, she couldn't possibly tell Mo Ting that he had randomly selected her. So, her words were half true and half false. All in all, she was trying to say that Mo Ting had previously prepared to marry her. In fact, they had already set a date and had already arrived at the Civil Affairs office. However, she didn't think it through at the time and regretted it. So, the marriage was temporarily put on hold. Since he is your man, you should keep an eye on him. As the heiress of the Kai family, do you really want your man stolen away by a model? If that's what Mo Ting likes, there's nothing I can do. Kai Xinyan couldn't let go of her pride and beg Mo Ting. After all, she had already been humiliated by Mo Ting on the night of Chanel. Since there's nothing you can do, then don't get involved in this matter from now on. After speaking, Tang Xian hung up the phone with a dark expression on her face. In that case, I look forward to working with you. After dinner, the couple prepared to return home. However, as soon as they boarded the car, Tongning noticed there was an extra person in the back seat, Ning Jie. Shina. Tongning turned around and held on to Han Shina's hand as she scanned her from head to toe. Have you recovered? Don't worry, I'm healthy. Han Shina waved her hand. Fang Yu gave me a phone call and said you were looking for an assistant. Coincidentally, I wasn't sure what to do, so Fang Yu found me. Is your body really fine? Don't worry, I go to the gym regularly and work hard to get stronger. Han Shina smiled at Tongning. Thinking about being your assistant, I'm really happy. I hope Long Jie can have a child soon, that way I can continue to follow you. Tongning can have 2 assistants, Mo Ting said as he drove. As Tongning was choosing her own assistants, Hai Rui did not interfere. Really? Tongning nodded her head. President Mo wouldn't lie to me. Han Shina looked at Mo Ting's back from behind. Indeed, only someone like Tongning could control him. After all, just the thought of a black-bellied man like him made her tremble in fear. I will send you some information. You need to hurry and take over Tongning's job. Understood, boss. Han Shina saluted the 2 men. Chapter 352. This was Han Shina's first time in Hyatt Regency and her first time entering Tongning and Mo Ting's love nest. Seeing everything in the home was based on Tongning's preferences and everything in pairs, Han Shina couldn't help but feel a little dizzy as she spun around in the living room. Your giant poster. Hair. Tongning looked at Han Shina spinning around like a child and couldn't help but smile. I like the back view of the 2 of you filming LM's commercial the most. Do you have one? In the bedroom, Tongning smiled. Stop spinning around, I'm getting dizzy. Ning Jie, are you happy to be married to boss? Han Shina couldn't help but think of her disappointing brother. Although she was Han Yufan's sister, she couldn't deny that someone like Tongning deserved the best man. Very happy, Tongning nodded her head without hesitation. So happy that sometimes, I even want to thank Han Yufan. Don't be silly. Han Shina sat down beside Tongning and pulled out her work notes. Since I am your assistant, let's go through the contents of our work. Tongning looked at Han Shina's serious expression and also became serious. Although Shina and Long Jie were both optimistic people, Long Jie was a little more hot-tempered and Shina was more mischievous. Plus, when one looked at her smile, they felt it was bright and beautiful. After a few more scenes, Stupid will be finished. But, tomorrow night, you will need to attend the press conference for Hidden Expert. At the beginning of next month, you will join the cast of Hidden Expert. Of course, the most important thing is to announce your marriage to boss. I am truly happy for you. As Tongning looked at Han Shina's smiling eyes, she finally realized she was already someone's wife. Aren't you guys going to hold a wedding? Now is not the time. I don't want to give her a warehouse wedding, Mo Ting suddenly interrupted as he walked out of the study room. Mo Ting stepped out of the study room and suddenly interrupted, take your time to prepare. After all, she can't run away. I'll listen to you. Tongning had no objections to matters like this. Han Shina looked at the couple and knew it wasn't good to stay any longer. After explaining what she needed to do, she prepared to leave Hyatt Regency. However, Tongning suddenly called out to her, Where are you staying now? Boss has prepared a big apartment for me, don't worry. After speaking, Han Shina waved goodbye to the couple. Tongning watched helplessly as Han Shina left. She's still so young, yet I've already forced her to be my assistant. Will it hinder her future? Keep her by your side to hone her skills. She is the successor of the PR department that Fang Yu has his eyes on. He then sat down beside Tongning and wrapped his arm around her. The gift has already been delivered to the Tang family. However, I can't guarantee that your grandfather will receive it personally. Chapter 353. After the scandal broke out, everyone on set looked at Tongning in a different light as they began to discuss her in private. How do you guys think Tongning can continue acting? The entertainment industry is so realistic. You can get dumped so easily. If President Mo marries someone else, wouldn't that mean Tongning will be back to her original self? Shish. Keep your voice down. A few extras sat together and discussed. But their voices were actually quite loud. Even Lin Sheng, who was sitting not too far away, could hear them. So, he sat down beside Tongning and asked, "What's going on?" "What do you mean, what's going on?" Tongning asked curiously. About the breakup and the fact that President Mo is marrying someone else, Lin Sheng replied straightforwardly. Lin Sheng asked bluntly. This was the first time Lin Sheng had cared about someone else's private life other than acting. It's just a rumor. We are fine, Tongning responded to the heated rumors with simple words. Since that's the case, then ignore it and focus on acting. Okay, Sheng Ji. Tongning lifted her head and replied in seriousness. In reality, Lin Sheng was more than worthy of being her acting teacher. In just a short period of time, Lin Sheng had taught her a lot. In that case, I'll go film now. Tongning nodded her head. She completely ignored the heated discussions that were going on around her. Shina followed beside Tongning. Although she was also angry, she wasn't as impulsive as Long Jie. She analyzed the situation logically. I think the person behind this is a bit stupid. Not to mention, you and President Mo are already married. Even if you weren't, based on how much President Mo cares about you, he wouldn't give up on you for the sake of a marriage. Because President Mo doesn't care. Tongning burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at the difference between you and Long Jie. If Long Jie was here, she would definitely curse the person behind this 1,000 times before she would stop. Tongning closed the script of Hidden Expert and stood up. She then turned to Han Shina and said, "It seems, the reason she likes to eat is so she has the strength to curse." Haha. In short, Tongning did not seem affected at all. Even the people around her looked at her sympathetically. However, Tongning couldn't be bothered to explain. After all, they were about to announce their marriage and the truth would soon be revealed. However, things got out of hand. In order to get first-hand information, the paparazzi used all kinds of methods to barge into the set, which seriously affected the filming progress. Hearing this, Coke said, "You only have a few scenes left. Go home and rest for a few days. After things settle down, you can come back and continue." Tongning nodded her head. Actually, she had the same intention. I just saw Tongning leave. Doesn't she still have filming tonight? Why are you still filming at a time like this? How pitiful. They say that in ancient times, accompanying a king was like accompanying a tiger. Actually, following the big boss of the entertainment industry isn't that much different. Yesterday, you were a treasure, but today you're worse than a chicken. Chicken. Gossiping was one thing, but when Tongning was compared to a chicken, Han Shina was not happy. So, she turned around and snapped, "What did you just say? Say that again." "I'm telling the truth. Right now, rumors are going crazy that Tongning has been dumped by President Mo because President Mo is marrying a rich heiress. How could the man be questioned by a mere assistant?" The moment the flame was raised, his words became even more unpleasant. "You, Shina." Tongning stopped Han Shina. She then turned around and said to the woman, "I am still on set. You should leave some leeway for others and yourself. Otherwise, you will forever be an extra and will never improve." After speaking, Tongning turned her head. Just as the woman was about to explode, Mo Ting's car suddenly stopped in front of Tongning. Like he did it on purpose, he stepped out of the car and wrapped his arm around Tongning, personally escorting her into the car. Everyone on set saw this. Especially the woman that was casually gossiping a moment ago, her face turned red. Didn't they break up? Why did President Mo personally come to pick her up? It's just a rumor. Look at the two, they are still displaying their love like they normally do. Of course, provoking the boss wasn't an easy thing to get over. However, the fate of the two extras was yet to come. For something like this, all Mo Ting needed to do was make a phone call and they would never be able to act again. Is everyone on set treating you like this? Mo Ting asked on the way home. No, only the two extras from before, Tongning replied. Good. She turned her head and noticed the gloomy look in Mo Ting's eyes. She immediately asked, "What's going on?" "This matter. Can you not ask anything about this matter and let me handle it?" Mo Ting asked. He didn't want to tell her that the people that stabbed her in the back were from the Tang family. They were her family. Tongning looked carefully into Mo Ting's eyes and understood a little. If you didn't tell me, I would have a lot of guesses and thoughts. Actually, not many people know about this incident and the timing was so coincidental. Even if you didn't tell me, I would still have a rough idea. After all, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Mo Ting did not forget how smart Tongning was. He simply felt bad for her intelligence. Why can't you be a little more stupid? That would make you happier. If I had a choice, I would still choose to be smarter, because that way, you wouldn't be tired. At least, I can share your burden. Tongning said firmly as she held onto the back of Mo Ting's hand. Are you going to take it out yourself, or do you want me to call Hai Rui to verify it? Tang Xian's expression did not look good. She had no choice but to retrieve a box from her bedroom and place it in front of Elder Tang. Can you explain to me what this is? Elder Tang asked despite knowing the answer. This is a gift from the CEO of Hai Rui. It seems, he wants to tell us that he and Tongning have plans to get married. In that case, can you tell me what this is? Elder Tang pulled out a newspaper from his pocket and threw it in front of Tang Xian. Don't tell me this has nothing to do with you. Tang Xian's body trembled, but she still picked up the newspaper from the floor and opened it. Grandfather, what's wrong with Xiao Xian? Tang Xian's husband was confused. Why were the grandfather and granddaughter talking in riddles? Elder Tang stood up with a fierce aura. This isn't the first time you've hurt Tongning like this. Do you admit to it? Grandfather, how can you be so sure that I'm the one that hurt Tongning? Do you still feel wronged? Elder Tang's voice turned cold. I've already spoken to your assistant. You were the one that spread the news. You couldn't bear to see Tongning marry a husband with a powerful background, so you tried everything you could to separate them. So, you spread this false rumor and made my granddaughter look down on you. The more you act like this, the more impossible it is for the Tang family's perfume to land in your hands. Chapter 356. At the end of the press conference, it was time for fans and the main cast to interact with each other. Of course, at a time like this, it was inevitable that Tongning would be asked the most difficult questions. A chubby woman held onto the microphone and asked worriedly, Tongning, us fans really want to know how your relationship with President Mo is going. We are extremely worried about you, extremely worried. The host glanced at Mo Ting and then at Tongning before passing the microphone to her. Tongning held onto the microphone and smiled. Is President Mo's actions today not enough to reassure you? But Tongning knew the fans would still suspect they were putting on an act. So, she walked off the stage and pulled Mo Ting onto the stage with her. The fans screamed in excitement. Tongning and Mo Ting intertwined their fingers and replied confidently, I'm not afraid of being abandoned because he has given me enough confidence. I'm not afraid of rumors either. For us, this is simply another opportunity to show off our love. Wow! Lastly, I hope everyone will pay attention to my upcoming film, Hidden Expert. After speaking, Tongning originally wanted to hand the microphone back to the host. However, Mo Ting grabbed it from her and said to everyone, I only have Tongning. Anything that doesn't come from my mouth is just a rumor. Whoever I marry is up to me. It's not up to the media to decide, and it's definitely not up to the rumors. Only Tongning's matter could make Mo Ting explain himself like this. Mo and Tang work together to counter the rumors. We are doing great. President's courage. I have the final say in who I marry, not the media. This time, the rumors of being dumped were cleared up. The black-bellied President Mo was able to show off his love to the public once again. That night, Tongning returned to the set of Stupid. At this time, the staff no longer looked at her with sympathy. All the guesses and conjectures she had heard were now nothing more than a passing cloud, not worth mentioning. That night, Kai Xinyan was at home watching the entertainment news. Seeing Mo Ting ignoring her, she felt indignant. Mo Ting's assistant was the one that contacted her on August 19th. Could it be that, as the heiress of a rich family, she couldn't compare to a bare-chested model? After thinking for a moment, Kai Xinyan realized it was indeed unfair, so she took over the stall from Tang Xian's hands. Weren't there reporters blocking the entrance? Weren't there reporters waiting for them? She was going to admit it. She wanted to see how Mo Ting was going to erase the truth. The next day, Kai Xinyan made the news explode. She had personally admitted to the media that on August 19th, she had almost registered her marriage with Mo Ting. As for whether they were a couple in the past, why they wanted to get married and so on, she did not reveal a single thing. Chapter 358. Not only was it a joke, it was the biggest joke in the world. Let me clarify once again, President Mo does not know Miss Kai. He has only met her once at Chanel's celebration dinner and has no intention of taking things any further. President Mo and Tongning have a great relationship. Please don't judge other people's feelings with the eyes of the world. This is Hai Rui's last statement. If the media continues to spread rumors, I'm sorry, but don't blame Hai Rui for being merciless. After speaking, Fang Yu turned around and returned to Hai Rui in high spirits. The remaining reporters immediately packed their things. They had another article to write about. It turned out, it was all because of a socialite throwing herself at Mo Ting. The internet quickly spread the news of Kai Xinyan throwing herself at Mo Ting. Thinking about it, I feel embarrassed for her. It turns out, she actually thought Mo Ting wanted to marry her. Miss Kai has reached a new level of narcissism. Haven't you guys noticed? With Mo Ting's black-bellied ruthlessness, only someone with Tongning's EQ could match up to him. A socialite like this can't even be bothered to entertain her. Is that why Hai Rui sent Fang Yu? Wrong. Didn't you guys notice that Fang Yu also had an impatient look on his face? Hey, this face slap feels good. Haha, did she really think she could do whatever she wanted just because she had money? Wrong again. Tongning's family background is quite scary. It's just that she has never relied on them. The newspapers had written that Kai Xinyan had no sense of shame and that she was throwing herself at Mo Ting. So, Father Kai was unhappy. Although he rarely got angry at Kai Xinyan, this time, Kai Xinyan was the one who threw herself at him. He had eyes and saw everything clearly. Don't you feel embarrassed? Father Kai questioned Kai Xinyan with his hands behind his back in the study room. Kai Xinyan's face turned red as she averted her gaze. You might not be embarrassed, but I've been completely embarrassed by you. What do you think? No matter where I go, I have to put up with people looking at me strangely. Because of this joke, our business partners have decided that we are not trustworthy enough, so they cancelled their original plans. What are you trying to do? Why did you provoke Hai Rui? Do you think you can fight against the Tang family? Tongning, she obviously has 4 siblings, yet grandfather Tang only loves her. How can you compare to her when it comes to scheming? Father Kai was so angry that his entire body was trembling. From today onwards, you're not allowed to go out for a month. Stay at home and reflect on yourself. But, no buts. It doesn't matter if you don't attend one of those socialite gatherings. After speaking, Father Kai waved his hand at Kai Sinyan. Go get some rest. Chapter 359. Before Tang Xian could respond, Tongning hung up the phone. As she put down the phone, her eyes darkened. It was not her wish to be born into the Tang family. She had already punished herself for so many years. Was it not enough? How far did the Tang family want to push her? Ning Jie. I'm fine. Tongning looked at Han Xina and revealed a reassuring smile. The rain outside made Tongning's mood a little heavy. But, after thinking about Mo Ting, Tongning's heart slowly calmed down. In fact, she felt an inexplicable warmth. Once upon a time, in order to hide from the Tang family and take care of Han Yufan, she was willing to give up her beloved career and retreat behind the scenes to be a good wife and loving mother. But now, she felt, only by standing in the most dazzling position would she be able to match up to Mo Ting. Therefore, she would not retreat for the sake of the Tang family. Ning Jie, someone's knocking on the door. I think it's boss. I'll go open the door. Yes. Tongning smiled at Han Xina. However, to her surprise, the person holding a black umbrella at the door turned out to be Elder Tang's assistant. Miss Tongning, the chairman wants to see you. He is waiting in the car downstairs. Tongning glanced at Han Xina. Although her emotions were complicated, she couldn't find a reason to reject Elder Tang. Not to mention, they were already downstairs. Tongning gestured for Han Xina not to follow. She then mouthed to her to give Mo Ting a phone call. Han Xina nodded her head. After Tongning left, she pulled out her phone and dialed Mo Ting's number. Hey, boss, the Tang family are here to look for Ning Jie. Mo Ting was already on his way to the set. As soon as he heard Han Xina's anxious words, he immediately sped up. Downstairs, the assistant held up an umbrella as he led Tongning to a black car parked under a tree. Through the car window, Tongning looked at the old man sitting inside and couldn't help but sigh. She couldn't remember if it was 4 or 5 years since she last saw her grandfather. Miss Tongning, please get in. The assistant opened the car door. Tongning hesitated for a moment before finally getting into the car. She didn't even have time to change out of her costume. Elder Tang sat upright in the car with a righteous aura. He turned his head to look at Tongning and couldn't help but scoff. Is this how you act now? Grandpa, are you here for the newspaper? If it is, I will think of a way to deal with it. There is no need for you to personally make a trip here. Humph. Elder Mo scoffed. You sure have a backbone. It's been 9 years. Don't you miss your mother and grandfather at all? Since you have the courage to leave home, why can't you bear the scorn and supercilious looks of those people? You're overthinking things. The only reason I left the Tang family was because I wanted to enter the entertainment industry, Tongning denied. Perfume is not my interest. As soon as Tongning turned around, she saw Mo Ting patiently waiting for her with an umbrella in his hand. Tongning's tears immediately rolled down her face. At this time, Mo Ting removed his jacket and pulled her into his embrace, hugging her tightly. It's okay. It's okay, you have me. Tongning hugged Mo Ting tightly. Until the moment she had to make a choice, she would never have realized how much Mo Ting meant to her. Ting. Do you know how important you are to me? Tongning asked in the rain. I know. But, you need to remember, I will always love you more than you love me. Tongning buried her head in Mo Ting's embrace as her tears landed on his sweater. The couple stood in the rain for quite some time before Mo Ting wrapped his arm around her and said, Let's go back to the hotel. Tell me everything your grandfather told you without leaving out a single word. Okay, Tongning nodded her head. Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning as they returned to the hotel. His heart was in turmoil. Who was the old man trying to bully? Even if it was a member of the Tang family or an elder, as long as Tongning was unhappy, he wouldn't let it go so easily. Chapter 360. 10 p.m. The storm suddenly stopped. Tang Ning had already calmed down thanks to Mo Ting's comforting words. The couple hugged each other to sleep as they held each other's cheeks. I've already asked Coke to postpone tonight's shoot. Get some sleep. Tang Ning snuggled into Mo Ting's embrace and pressed against his chest. No need, I'm just going to sleep for half an hour. I want to get up and film. Okay, if you want to sleep, I'll hug you. If you want to film, I'll accompany you. Mo Ting did not force Tang Ning to rest. He simply allowed her to do as she pleased. After listening to Elder Tang and Tang Ning's conversation, Mo Ting suddenly realized that Tang Ning must have experienced a lot of pain and hardship during her childhood. The Tang family ostracized and made things difficult for her, Elder Tang's control, and her own guilt and pain. These were all things that made his heart ache when he thought about them. So, an hour later, the night scene began. Late at night, as soon as Elder Tang returned home, his assistant immediately called for the family doctor, attracting the attention of the rest of the Tang family. Tang Xian followed him around anxiously. It was not until Elder Tang had stabilized that she asked her assistant, "Where did grandfather go? Why did he suddenly relapse?" That. The assistant was in a difficult position. "What else can't you say? Grandfather is already in this state." Tang Xian was extremely anxious. The chairman went to see Tang Ning, the assistant replied honestly. After hearing this, Tang Xian was stunned. "Did you say grandfather went to see Tang Ning?" "Grandfather said he won't see Tang Ning again. We are both granddaughters, how could he not see her?" The chairman was simply saying it out of anger. Tang Xian handed the medicine and water to her assistant and turned around to return to her room without looking back. She had already endured so much, but why did Tang Ning still refuse to leave the Tang family home? She knew deep down that Elder Tang had always had Tang Ning as his successor. But, unfortunately, Tang Ning was the child of a mistress. So, anyone could do it except her. "Grandfather, you forced me to do this." Tang Xian clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't help but want Tang Ning to stay away from the Tang family home. Scene 181, third scene. Action. This scene was a scene between Tang Ning and the athlete. When it came to child rearing, the athlete was completely caught off guard. On the muddy road after the rain, Tang Ning carried her child in her arms. Her body was extremely weak. However, as soon as the athlete saw her, not only did he refuse to acknowledge her, he refused to acknowledge her child either. In front of the camera, Tang Ning carried the child in her arms and revealed a contemptuous smile. She looked at the back of the athlete and said, "My child is a genius. If you don't raise him, you will regret it." Actually, boss just gave me a phone call and told me not to tell you about this in case you feel bad. It's fine. It's the truth anyway. It's not a bad thing for it to be exposed. But will it affect the Mo family's opinion of you? Han Shina was worried about this. "Help me prepare my car. I need to return to the Tang family home," Tang Ning said firmly. There were some things that she needed to resolve. Allowing Tang Xian to bully her like this was something she would have done in the past. But now, no one could hurt her. Because, hurting her was equivalent to hurting Mo Ting. "Should I let boss know?" "Of course. But, I need to head over first. I can't sit still here for even a second." "Okay, you go first. Here are the car keys. Hurry and leave before the media arrive," Han Shina said as she protected Tang Ning. Tang Ning left the hotel. As Han Shina watched Tang Ning leave, she suddenly felt that life was difficult. For example, in the Han family, her older brother was greedy and her older sister was evil. As for Tang Ning, she was forced into this state by her own family. How much hatred did she have for her to pull out a knife against her own family? Tang Ning actually understood why Tang Xian did this. It was because she knew her grandfather had spoken to her. Was she so afraid that she would take over the Tang family? Was she willing to expose the Tang family's dirty laundry? Tang Ning sped down the road. However, halfway there, she received a phone call from Mo Ting. "Slow down." Tang Ning immediately slowed down. "Ning, you head over first. I'm on my way to pick you up. After all, today's the wedding announcement." Perfect timing. Are you referring to your scandals, and the world's longest legs award? Elder Tang narrowed his eyes. In my eyes, they are nothing but embarrassing. There's nothing I can do about it. After speaking, Tongning continued to walk away. But, Elder Tang continued, are you really going to abandon your parents and family? Just because of your hobbies and dreams? Xiao Ning, stay here. Mom and Dad miss you, Father Tang persuaded. Tongning shook her head. However, just as Tongning was about to walk away for the third time, Mother Tang suddenly spoke. Her voice was raspy. I know that this is all because of me. Tongning did not turn around. I know that deep down, Tongning would rather not have me as her mother because I have caused her to be shamed for the rest of her life. Madam, don't cause trouble, Father Tang immediately tried to comfort her. Actually, the solution to all of this is very simple. As long as I'm not around, everything will be fine, right? Madam, what nonsense are you saying? That's enough, stop talking. Tongning won't be going anywhere today. She can only stay here. I will get someone to deal with the rumors that are spreading, Elder Tang interjected. As for Tang Xian, this is the last time. If I find out that you are doing something similar again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Sorry grandfather, I still need to film.